here's a question that everybody wants to know before we start this. So you were at my home, and you got to my home before Mark Zuckerberg did on a holiday weekend.
Correct.
Okay. What was I doing when you arrived?
You were out by the camper van or something.
Oh
no, you were burning some paperwork.
And I was crying. And I was crying, wasn't I?
Yeah, you're crying like a little girl because you were pissed off because you had these ideas and concepts of things, and
I was trying to get
them in the burn. You were throwing them in a burn barrel, burning them.
And I said I had to get.
Burn barrel.
And I said I had to get this one to work, the one most important one. Yep.
Yeah.
It was to help my friend. It was to help my friend Tiffany.
So basically, it could, video talk like we are now, kind of, and
it was a
show
social.
What you've been doing.
It was
what you've been doing.
Online business where everybody socialized, and then I used experiences from friends and family to create it. Like my sister worked at a marketing research firm, and I figured out a way to do all the marketing research from the actual postings that people talk about their everyday life and their hobbies, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were here when Mark was here.
For a little while, yeah.
Yeah, you left and something happened. I think that's when you had a problem with the local authorities and your car had it. Is that what happened? Was that weekend? You came down here to see the stripper?
Oh, Angelique, yeah.
Yeah, your car got. You can say it.
Fucked up.
Yeah. So the authorities took your car and they stripped it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you stayed here. So you stayed here at my home at night. Okay.
Yeah.
So you got to see Mark Zuckerberg while he was here, but that night that you spent the night, I told you I think it's all going to work out because he was going to help me.
Yeah. What did I say?
Don't trust anybody.
Get it. And get it what?
And get it in writing. Writing.
Yeah.
Okay. And
people fuck you.
Yeah, and he couldn't be trusted. Okay. So then his story changed, or his plans changed, and his lawyer got involved, Mark Howitson. And then Mark decided that he wanted to use my plan, and he offered to pay me a percentage, and Mark Howitson, that lawyer, was the one was helping him work out the business agreement. And then Joe, you know Joe.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Joe, while on his work break, was here, and he was a witness during a business agreement between me and Mark Zuckerberg that also went by Marcel Elliott Zuckerberg. Okay. And the lawyer, Howitson, that was his friend and mentor, was his witness over the phone. Mark was supposed to record it and give me this copy, but he never did. Correct?
And I remember because I left to go to Cedar Rapids to visit other people.
Yeah.
And then I went to where the fucking prison is.
Anamosa?
The JMP Cycle.
Yeah, Anamosa. Yeah.
Yeah, I went there because I had a couple friends in Anamosa. That Heidi chick, I went to see her and a couple other people, and then I came back that night, and you were telling me about it.
Okay. So then, Mark refused to give me a copy of the video that he did of the agreement, but I was still under the impression that the lawyer was going to give me the agreement in writing. That's why he was on the phone. But before Mark left, hold on, let's back up. But after that recording, Mark asked me to give him my intellectual rights to my work, which would have canceled out the business agreement, and I refused to. And that's when he said he wouldn't give me a copy of the recording. And after that, he went around trying to destroy everything that would have been proof that he was here. He formatted a digital camera. He opened up the back on a film camera. One camera came up missing, and then when we left, well, just before he left, he was using one of our cameras to take a picture of all of us at the end of the driveway next to a lilac bush, the family members. But after he left, we found out he stole everything. And I couldn't contact him. He wouldn't answer his email. I had his dad's email too, and he wouldn't answer that. He wouldn't answer a phone call. Okay, so that was pretty much the end of that. Okay, but then you were here again, and I think it was 2006. You were here again when the lawyer called. You were here again, but you got here.
Yeah, I was, but I think it was in 2007 because didn't I bring Grayson down?
No, you didn't have Grayson with you. No.
So, all right. So I came down before Grayson, and then, no, it was 2008 I brought Grayson down.
Okay. So, the lawyer had called, wanting me to give a statement that I gave that business plan to Mark Zuckerberg. And I said that if I did, I might see a return.
Something.
Right. And I said, now wait a minute now, we had an agreement, and that lawyer, which was on the phone, I said, and you were supposed to get this in writing and bring it back for me to sign. Now all of a sudden you don't want to do that. Now you want me to give a statement that I gave it to Mark. I said, I refuse to give him my intellectual rights over to him. So we had an argument, okay? And when that happened, you weren't here during the phone call. Joe was here, Mom was here. They were listening to it on the phone. The lawyer had actually called twice. He called once and I wasn't home, then he called the second time. I got it out at the barn, and there was Jim Smith and his relative. Jim Smith is an Iowa State trooper. Now, Jim Smith now has passed away. He died while on duty. Okay? So they listened into this phone call. Huh?
Wasn't he the one that was buying bike parts?
No. They were here buying video cameras. VHS video cameras. Remember the old VHS video camera that I got from you?
Yeah.
They bought that for me. And then his relative was going to school to become a movie producer.
Okay.
They listened into the phone call. And his relative said that he knew Mark through a friend. So he was really surprised all this was going on. Okay. So you came. Okay, hold on a second. So during the phone call, I revealed to Mark that there was a recording that I did of him on a little mini tape, little mini cassette. And he got all upset and he wanted that cassette. And he says, well, if you give me that cassette, I'll see about maybe giving you something. Well, then we argued and argued and argued. They tried to get me to say something out of context. And eventually they got me to say something out of context, and the lawyer says, oh, we got it. And then I heard a bunch of voices say, hang up the phone. And then at the very end, Mark says, well, you still might see something. And then he hung it up. You came back to my home that evening because you stayed here again. And I was really upset. I was in the barn trying to find that tape.
Yeah.
And you took a tape and you said, maybe you ought to just forget it. And you took a lighter and you started melting one of my little mini cassettes.
Yeah, I remember.
And I still have that cassette yet. Okay. So this is what they've been trying to hide. Now this is what is so important. I tried to get the FBI to answer an email, get past their call center. I sent them mail. They wouldn't answer a damn thing. Okay? Back in 2003, that's way before, when he ripped me off, you know, I first I called the authorities. They said, well, you know what? They stole your intellectual work. Ain't nothing we can do about that. So I contacted lawyers, and the lawyers said, well, you ain't going to be able to do anything until he uses your intellectual work. Well, here we go. He used my intellectual work to create Facebook. Okay?
Yep.
Now, so here's the problem. I tried to come forward. If the FBI would have answered an email, a phone call, or got past their call center, they would have known that Mark Zuckerberg and that lawyer created massive fraud to win the ownership of Facebook. Now, if they would have answered that, then that means that those two would have been in jail or prison, right? And here's how it would have played out. Severin, that was here the first time with Mark, because Mark was here twice. First he was with the little car, with his best friend in college. That was Severin. Severin put $15,000 towards creating that online site. Not Mark. Severin did. Severin paid for everything. If the FBI would have answered those emails, phone call, got past call center, mail, the whole darn bit, Mark would have had a choice. He would have either had to pay me, right? He would have had to pay me, and I would have helped him, so I wouldn't be sitting broke right now. Or I would have worked with Severin. If Severin would have gave me a percentage in return, I would have worked with Severin, and most likely Severin would be the owner of Facebook.
All right, let me ask you this. You know all these creators of this social media. You didn't have a name for it. It wasn't called Facebook.
No, I wanted to call it my journey. Yeah.
All right. I want to know how you know all these creators. How do you know how much money did they put in? How do you know all this? If you weren't involved in it,
okay,
how would you know that? And the other thing, which
there was interviews done. That's how I know how much money Severin put in, because there was interviews done.
And this is the other thing I want to know.
Okay.
I have Facebook.
Yeah.
All right. You have Facebook.
Yeah.
Why is your Facebook totally different than mine?
Well, there's an interesting thing to that, and I really didn't know that this is what was going on. Anybody that was involved in the creation of Facebook, including adding money to it, one of them, either Mark or Severin, and I'm going to lead more towards it was probably Severin, got a special version of Facebook. So when you went to sign on, you didn't get the same Facebook that everybody else got. You got a special slot that was reserved. And I heard that there was like 15 slots available. Could have been slightly more or slightly less. So when I first signed up for Facebook, now when you first sign up for Facebook, Facebook was really buggy. Okay? But when I went to first go sign up to Facebook, it took me to somewhere else, and it downloaded a different version that everybody else has. Now there is multiple versions of Facebook. I don't know how many different versions there are, but I mean it kept evolving again and again and again and again and again. But the special version of Facebook has a number at the top of it so you can know what your slot is.
Oh yeah, I've seen it on yours.
Yeah, and it's really low, isn't it? And
like number 8? Like 8 or something?
9. And the special versions are full screen. The icons are hidden. No advertising. And no advertising.
I've looked at your Facebook. And like with my Facebook, when there's a new version out, it updates.
Mine don't.
Yours does not. Does not update.
Mine stays just as it is. Yep.
And it's totally different than...
It did try to update once, and it reverted right back to the original. Yep.
Yeah. That I find perplexing.
Yep. Okay, so there's that. So I Okay. So for anybody that doesn't know, I'm gonna go over a little bit of history here towards the end of this, but we're going to go through everything. But so the whole reason of creating this social network, this online business, was a promise. Well, it started with a promise.
Yeah, it was for your friend who.
It was my friend that was paralyzed. Yeah.
Yeah, she's disabled.
Okay.
Okay,
she was disabled.
Yeah, I know that.
So it was to get past barriers. When she came back from after having meningitis and she was paralyzed and she was hanging on to me and hanging on, I prayed a promise to her that I'd try to make the world a better place. And it was all because of her. And you know what? And if it wasn't for Mark being such a greedy, spoiled brat, it all would have worked. It would have employed people that couldn't get a job because of disabilities. It was to fund free clinics and shelters, which is interesting because his girlfriend that he had only known for just a short time was at my home, and she thought that was the greatest idea. Which, when they created the Chan Initiative, I thought, hey, at least they're going to do that, but it didn't turn out, did it?
No.
So it all would have worked out if it wasn't for Mark. But now it's become this bloated up thing that doesn't resemble what it originally was supposed to do, and he's spying on everybody to become this big thug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we got past all of that. Okay. So here's something I want to say. Now I'm going to go back into. I don't even know if this is even going to be on the internet. We may just cut this off, and that might just be the rest of the video, just what we just did. Okay. But here's what I want to say. So the beginning of this whole situation, it seemed like there was a series of events that was set out, and it's really strange. And you know the history, I've told you, and you're one of the ones that pointed this out. So here we go. This is really weird. So if you're a person that's into religion or believes in fairy tales, this is for you. Okay. So I don't know what to think about this, but yeah, there's something to it. Okay. So I met the girl of my dreams. I was dating one model, met another one at her birthday party. Okay, this was Denise. Okay. So I brought Denise home, took her up to the tower at Pennington Ridge Park in Central City, Iowa. We're sitting there in my car, and I got the car backed into the parking spot, and there's this guy. Now this is in February, somewhere around February 16th of 1991. It's cold out.
Are you talking about the guy that dropped the piece of paper in your car?
Yeah, so for other people don't know about this, but listen, there's something weird about this. We have never been able to figure it out. So this guy comes up, he taps on the window, motions for her to roll it down, and he starts talking to us like he had just known us forever. There was no other cars parked there. The guy wasn't dressed for the weather. Had a dog with him. And he talks about how we need to be prepared for what's to come, how we need to work out these problems. He describes the problems that we're going to have. He describes it right down perfectly of what's going to happen in order, which seems really, really strange. Okay? Yeah. And then she turns around. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. And then he says, maybe I ought to just realize that we're all just, or he says, maybe you should realize I'm just another echo or a ghost in the past. He says, but it really was really nice to see everybody all together again. And then she turns around and she looks at me and she says, did you set this up? He kind of looks like he's a relative. We turn back, the guy was gone.
Yeah.
I take her to my home, meet Mom. My car is fancy, like a show car with airbrush designs down the side of it. Perfectly clean on the inside, so I would know if something was out of place. They open up the door, and this piece of paper fell out, so we think he must have dropped it just inside the door. Now, it wasn't a big piece of paper, it was a little thing, you know. And it had a bunch of numbers wrote on it, and those numbers, only one of them corresponded to that day. That was a date. And the other ones go way before and way beyond. So I asked her if it was hers. She said no. You know, that's probably not looking good if she got a gun on the video.
Sorry.
anyway, we never could figure it out. But the weird thing is, everything that he said played out. All right?
Yeah.
So we had this horrible, okay, now let me, okay. She was the girlfriend of my dreams. Driving a really nice, looking Z28, a model. Oh my God, she was gorgeous. I liked her personality. I liked her family. I'm not a person so much with, what people. I don't care if you live in a shack, but I don't want you looking like a bum. But she lived in a multi-million-dollar home. Okay, with the indoor swimming pool and the whole bit. I don't know, if they owned it, rented it, what, I don't know. But okay, but that's what it was. All right.
She was upper class.
Yeah. So anyway, the relationship fell apart. The family, apparently there was some old feud between the Shakespeares and her family, and I heard her grandmother say, "You ain't gonna have no bastard Shakespeare child." And then I had relatives coming out of the woodwork that I have never met saying that, you can't date, we forbid it, you can't date her, you got to get her out of, you can't be in a relationship with her, and then we moved in together.
Yep,
okay?
Your sister.
And then a fight just started, and oh my God. So anyway, how it ended was, what ruined the relationship, one, she was promiscuous, she did the boss's son in the copy room, and then she got in trouble and she couldn't wear skirts to work no more, and she came home and told me about it. But you probably would have blew up about that, but you know what, I just kind of let it slide by. I figured we'd work through it. That was kind of the guy I was. You wouldn't have, I did. Okay. And then she got... Huh?
I said hit the road, bitch.
Yeah, I know. And then she got screwed over on a car that the stepnephew found her, and basically she lost over $5,000. She lost more than $5,000 on this car. And that's where the last fight started that just couldn't be solved, okay? And then there was one of those promiscuous things again, too, because she wanted to swing, and I wasn't into that. Okay, so we split, and it turned into this Hollywood-style mobster breakup with the FBI getting involved. I got accused of things I didn't do. I was getting shot at when I was leaving from work and chased down. One of her dad's friends got a job where I was working at, and I didn't know he was his best friend. He invited me over to his house after work one night, and her dad tried to beat me up. Okay, so let's get past all that. Okay, so because of that, I need a drink. Hang on a second. So because of that breakup, I met Tiffany. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go to all the details, but I met Tiffany. And I met her friend first, and then I met Tiffany and didn't realize they were best friends. So anyway, but Tiffany and I never became romantically involved. In fact, I introduced her to one of my other friends, but we became like best friends. We just clicked together, okay? But she went to the Mall of America, which opened up in 1992.
Yeah.
So this date's important because she went to Mall of America in 1992, and August of 1992 is when it opened. She went there just slightly afterwards. That's where she got contracted spinal meningitis. Her dad flew her back to Cedar Rapids, and she almost died, but she was left paralyzed. Okay? So that is when I agreed to start working on this business plan. So that date's important because that would have been, if Mark took the business plan from me in September, on Labor Day weekend of 2003, that means that I worked on that business plan more than 3,650 days. That's a hell of a long time.
Yep.
All right. So now there's an interesting thing about all this is that weirdness again. So after breaking up with Denise, I should have said this before, and about the time of meeting Tiffany, Okay, I was really upset about, hey, I'm getting framed by the FBI and they're accusing me of harassing her, but you know what? Somebody's chasing me down and shooting me, and somebody's threatening me, and oh yeah, and there was this. So her dad's friend said that him and his dad had killed people before, and they put a bomb in a car and Center Point and blew somebody up. Her dad built it, the other friend put it in the car, and they killed some other guy over a drug deal because he was a rival person selling drugs. Now,
I'm listening.
yeah, I'm telling this to the FBI, and they said, so what? This is an unsolved crime that they've been trying to solve for years, but they don't want to solve it. Okay? So I'm jumping back and forth here. Okay? So what wound up happening is I didn't know that I was getting involved with a family that possibly was in not small-time drug dealing, but possibly into big-time drug dealing. Right?
You mean like the mob?
Yeah, like maybe that's how they afforded their multi-million-dollar home. I don't know. So anyway, so I got mad one day on the smart-ass comment that I said.
Yeah, I know the comment.
Okay, so they come to my house looking for explosives. Of course, there was nothing. And some of the reserves that were here are actually my classmates. Okay? Yeah. And they asked me to go down and give a statement willingly, and I said, sure. They offered to give me a ride. Sure, I wanted to go down there. Biggest mistake ever. I got down to where they didn't take me to police department. They took me to a fire department. They had a little cubicle all set up with a big halogen work light over the cubicle with a pre-typed statement. They wanted me to sign a statement saying that I did all of these things I never ever did. Okay? And like the wording that I said, my smart-ass comment, they made it look like a threat.
Yep, I know.
Okay. And they turned everything around to make it look like I was harassing her. Okay? Now, shortly after we had broke up, I told her to get her ass out. Okay? We were still getting together in the background and nobody knew it. And she told me on one of those nights that she was pregnant. And I said, so is it my kid or somebody else's? And she was pretty good at doing the math, and she figured it was somebody else's, but she wasn't positively sure. So if you were somebody like me, and this harassment was going on and everything, but what would you do if you thought you were having a kid? You try to work it out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so like I said, I'm going back and forth. Back to that FBI thing. So I refused to sign this statement. They had some guys come in that said that, well, our governor's trying to pass this bill, and we want you to sign this statement because we're going to use you as an example. Even though you didn't do it, we want you to go along with it. And I said, but I didn't do that. I said, you're like taking everything and taking a molehill that nobody would have even got busted for and turning it into a mountain and making it into something. So they told me that to either go along with it or they were going to make something up and charge me for a more, bigger crime, right? And I said, well, all you need to do is just go along with it, and then you're going to get charged, and then afterwards you're going to take a deferred judgment. It's going to be wiped off your record. This is the exact steps that you're going to take, and the government's going to be happy. That was my first experience of government corruption. It was also the first time I ever heard of the name, the Consortium Group.
Oh, yeah.
The Consortium Group is the super rich. They're like a mob, or it could be the biggest mob, and they're in politics, and they're the ones that control the whole frickin' government. Okay? And somehow or another, I wound up involved with these people.
Man, like Lawrence here.
Oh, shit. I got people here. I'm on my video thing. Can you just set it off? I gotta block that so people don't see it. I'm recording this.
No.
Okay. So anyway,
Hey, there's my dog.
There's Lucy Lou.
There's my dog.
Okay. So it did play out exactly. I had to go along with exactly what they said. I was mad. There were some people that showed up at my door. Hold on. Back it up. I'm going to X that out. Okay. About the time that this had happened, one of the old my dad's old friends was in town for a funeral. He was one of these people involved in one of those secret societies like the Cabal or the Rosy Cross or something, okay? And he was talking to me about, well, you know what, you're at that age and there's probably some things that you should, you know, you probably would like to know about, and he said, I can help you. And you know what, and at that point, there's a possibility that maybe I might have been able to join one of these groups, you know, but this FBI thing, this is ruining it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So then, shortly after that, there was these people that came to my door, and I thought they were proselytizing, because we had a big problem with that at the time. And they looked like the elvish off Lord of the Rings. That's what they looked like. They looked like the elvish off the Lord of the Rings. I mean, they had white hair, ears kind of laid back, heads maybe kind of pointed a little bit more, very tall, slender, had a like British accent. They were not here to proselytize. The only thing they were here for is to tell me that this is the way it was supposed to be, like that guy that was there when Denise and I first met. He said, this is the way it was supposed to be, this is the plan, you need to go along with it. Mentioned something about a kid and told me I needed to start controlling my thoughts because your thoughts can have an effect on others and you know, a larger, like a world or something. And I thought, who in the hell are you freaks?
Wacko?
Yeah, what the hell are you doing at my freaking house? I said, what, now? And I'm thinking, what, Denise finally get into some religious cult now too? You know, so I told them off, and then they left.
Yeah.
Right? So, as weird as it may seem, it seems as if there might have been, I'm going to say there might, because I'm not really into these fairy tales like this, you know. Sure, I got an interest in UFOs, and someday everybody's going to learn about that because my family had, you know. Yeah, okay, so you're going to hear about it later. So anyway, but it seems as if there was a fight between, you know, that bet between God and the devil. Whichever one can influence mankind the most indirectly gets control over humanity and its fate.
Yeah.
As much as you know, and I'm not a religious person, but I have to admit, it does seem like, it even went back even further than Denise, and it is all led up to this. And this created Facebook, you know, even Mark might have played in it because they use his greed, you know, and it's being used for what? It's been creating war. It's been used for everything bad, creating wars, and because of it was created, and other things created, and other things created, and it's expanding, and it's not going good. It's going bad.
Look how much trouble Mark got in. He got pulled in front of fucking. What was it, Congress or some crap? A few years back.
He's gotten sued so darn many times, but now they're trying to fight back because they don't want 16-year-olds or 17-year-olds on Facebook. The government's trying to get them off. But if they do that, his profit's gone because that's the majority of them. Okay. Yeah. So
Old people don't use it like they do.
Okay, so like I said, these experiences all went together, right? Okay, so you and I, so I was, when I met Tiffany, I was doing janitorial work, working with and supervising convicts, if anybody didn't know. So then after almost getting killed by one, and he killed 2 other people, I thought, well, geez. Oh, and I forgot to mention, and I got somebody out of jail, a relative out of jail, into my custody before a court hearing, and I figured if I can do all that, I might as well get into security or law enforcement, right? But Denise ruined that. I had to wait till that deferred judgment before I could, you know, because the law enforcement, even though that had happened, I mean, they're saying, well, you know what, after the deferred judgment, nice, Dave, nice. After the deferred judgment, you can still work for us, you know. And I'm thinking, yeah, I don't think so after that. So I got into security. That's where you and I met.
Correct.
We worked at PMX Industries. That's where they melt down currency for the federal mint and make new coils.
Manufacture metal for the U.S. Mint.
For the U.S. Mint. Right. Okay. And so while I was there, the family that owns the business, the Rue family,
the
the Rue family, they took a liking to me. So how do I want to say this? Okay, so there was a phone call one day, and nobody could understand the phone call, right?
Yeah.
And I knew that the call was important, and her dad was visiting from South Korea, and I couldn't get the phone, I couldn't transfer because the phone was busy, so I went back and I stood at the door and told him that there was this important phone call, it's an emergency, and then they wanted to know how I knew, and I said, well, because I used to work with Koreans, and I had some Korean friends, okay? So they had offered me
a job
in South Korea, working for the family, or working in California.
Yeah, but
I turned it down.
Mr. Len would not take it because he's a chicken shit, would not fly,
I didn't want to
drug you.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
But you also, your stepdad, Earl, was not doing well.
Yep.
And your mom was giving up. So.
And I wanted to be around for Tiffany. But it wasn't that long after, because the hours got to be crazy. I was working a week's worth plus overtime in one shift. And I got old.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and I got old fast. So you left first, and then I left. But then sometime after that, Tiffany left. She left Iowa and went with her parents because, she's paraplegic. And they went to Seattle, Washington, and her dad took a job with Boeing. So that we really needed to get this business started so her and I could keep in contact with each other like we had originally planned. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I
left.
just over the phone, video.
Yeah.
Video also.
Like we're doing right now.
Yes.
Okay. So I left there. You had went to work for Cornell College for a while, and then you left, and then I went to work for Cornell College.
I went out to that, what's that other college?
Mount
Vernon? Huh?
That's Cornell. Cornell's in Mount Vernon. The one in Cedar Rapids is Co.
Yeah,
Co's the one in Cedar Rapids.
People with the golf cart.
That's Cornell.
Yeah, I like Cornell.
That was Cornell. Yeah, that's the Ritchie school, upper class. Co is lower class. Co is where people would shoot at you when they saw you walking around. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I left there, and both of us got a job. I left there and I worked for a company that did lab testing for a while. Okay. I don't know if they want me to use their name or not, but okay. So then I left there, and then I went to work for the local landfill. And you worked there too. And Tim worked there. Yeah, I know. Okay. So if anybody don't know, Tim was that relative that I got out of jail that got in trouble. Right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, let me say, he's about 5.5 cans short of a 6-pack.
Okay.
He's an asshole. I don't like him.
Yeah, I know. He's probably watching this. Okay. So anyway.
I don't give it. You can fuck off.
Okay.
Sorry,
So anyway, okay. So I'm not going to get you too involved in what I'm going to say here. So we were working there at the dump. I got an eye infection. Okay. Yep. Oh, wait a minute. First of all, that winter the humidity was really, really high, and I got an ear infection. Birds were dying from the carbon monoxide fumes. I got carbon monoxide poisoning. Even though the dump don't want to admit it, and I went home one night passed out, blocked out on the road, went in the ditch, came back out, made it home. That was bad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that was the millennium 2000, okay? But, so, which happened first? Were you there when I had the vertigo, when I got the vertigo and all? You were working there.
I was still working there. You just started getting it because where they dump the recyclables, it's all in one big area, and you were in there. I ran the unload. You ran the unloader.
Yep.
And there was no ventilation because that diesel.
Yeah, birds were just dropping. I was scooping up at least a 5-gallon bucket full of dead birds a day.
I mean, you run that unloader in there with the diesel, and there's no ventilation.
No place for it to go. Yep. Yeah. And safety was really an issue there because the equipment was all broke. Okay. So I got vertigo so bad I couldn't go back to work. You carried me out of the house, tried to get me to the hospital. I didn't have no insurance, so I didn't want to go. You got me in a car.
You fought.
You got me in a car, and I bailed out of the car while you were going down the road.
Yeah.
And I literally crawled. I literally crawled back home on my hands and knees.
Oh, you tried to. I told you to get back in the car.
Yeah.
And you did, and I took you home.
Okay. So the vertigo never actually left for many, many, many years. But my mind started to overcome it to the point I could stand, but I had to walk with the stick. And then this ear got a bad ringing noise in it because it destroyed the vestibular system. So eventually I went back to work. Then I got an eye infection. And we don't know if the glass came from scooping glass into a dumpster, but there was also a glass container that was in there that somebody brought in, and I don't know if they had gas in it or what, but it went boom, and it blew up in the building. Okay? Now, here's the part, I'm going to keep you to a minimum here. Okay? So, this would have been the weekend before Memorial Day 2000. Okay? There was 3 individuals that came in driving a faded out, square body, black Honda, faded plate, foreigners, black Honda with Florida plates, with an unmarked car, following behind it, went back to the dumpster. They dumped off a bunch of stuff. Now, when you work at the dump long enough, we pick up on who's getting the divorce, who's getting a fight, who the meth cookers are, who the child molesters are, who the murderers are, who the thieves are, who held up somebody trying to get rid of their gun. You spot it long enough when you work at the landfill.
Well, yeah, you know what they're dumping. You see their garbage.
Yeah. So we knew something was up. Okay, so I went to the break room, and I came back, going up to the recycling building. The car was already up there, because this is about the time that Marion would come in with their recycling, right? And this individual, one of them got out of the car, and he was waiting until I got in there, and he had a garbage can, and he got my attention, and then he dumped it over the short concrete barrier wall.
Yep.
And what he threw over was not recycling. What he threw over was textbooks, CDs, software, notebooks, a dead man's computer, Illuminati and Jihad role-playing cards, government papers, a big red binder full of stuff, and the stuff was sticking out, showing that it was government papers. And then I said to he did this on purpose.
Yep.
And I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't go in there. You were just over at the garbage." I said, "Get that back out of there and go throw it in the garbage." And the guy leans over to me, and he gets really close, and he said to me, he says, "We've been hired as terrorists to do a terrorist attack." And he says that I want you to take all that stuff I just threw out and wait till after I leave and hurry and dig it all back out. And I basically called him, a bullshitter. a liar, a bullshitter. Okay? And then he said to me, he grabbed a couple of the items, and he says, I will autograph this, and I'll put a date on it. And he says, you got to hold on to this. He says, then it'll be worth millions of dollars someday. Just do exactly what I say. So I didn't believe it. So I'm starting to question him as the other two individuals are sitting in a car, and the other unmarked car is sitting at a distance. So he starts telling me as fast as he can that he's one person that's involved in the 9/11 attacks. He's like so the government is involved in this, and he's one of the go-betweens. So the government uses him, so there's not a direct connection, and then he's the one that speaks the language of the foreigners, and then gets into where they got to go, for nobody sees a government person involved.
Yep.
In fact, that's what he was doing with the two foreigners in the car. So the two foreigners get out of the car. One speaks English, one does not. They didn't hear everything that he had said, but they got in it towards the end, and then they started doing a rant going, 911, 911. And then they're talking to me about what's happening, and then I said to that guy, because he had told me he was tired of being used, and he's going to be the fall guy. He thought he was going to get he had gone to school to become some Microsoft engineer. He was from Morocco. And he thought he was going to get some job after this, working for the government. But he found out what he's going to wind up being is he's either going to wind up getting killed or going to prison for life, because they're setting him up, and he didn't want to be set up. So this is why he was doing it. So he's a bad guy, but yet bad guy's trying to get out of it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So that bad guy, his name was Yusuf Memza. All right. So I said, why don't you try to get out of it? And he said he couldn't. He was telling me all these things. And then I asked him something at the very end of this keep telling about this. I asked him I said, so are you Islamic, and do you believe that you're going to go to some higher plane? And he kind of chuckled a little bit, so I don't know which religion he was. And he asked me if I was a Christian, and I said, well, I don't go to church. I said, you might be able to consider me a Christian, sure, but I said, I don't read the Bible. I said, I kind of keep keep away from dogmatic views, but I said, I got relatives that that go to church, but they believe in that ancient alien theory, and I got my dad's friend, he studied ancient religion in the Philippines. So this opened up another thing here. So he started to tell me this what sounds like one of those fairy tales, that there's this war going on, right? Been going on for centuries, and these could be aliens or involved in this. This kind of resembles Stargate. That was the ending of all this. So they leave. This guy comes in. He asks, he says, what did they tell you? What did you guys talk about? I said, I can't tell you that, sir. So he takes out money and he starts flashing it. And he goes, I'll tell anybody. he says, I'll give anybody money if you tell me what they said. He starts flashing it. So I didn't tell him. I just went like this and I pointed over the wall. So there was a red binder that supposedly had all the plans in it for the 9/11 attack. The exact times, the dates, everything. Besides all the other stuff. That specific binder he wanted destroyed. But he would not pick that binder up and take it with him. Instead, he yelled at Tim. He says, come over here and get that. He said, I don't care what you guys do with it, if you burn it, bury it, or what, but nobody's ever going to see it again. So Tim came in with the skid loader, and he started scooping it up, and I'm going like this to stop. So Tim did get that binder, and it wound up going in the roll-off, the compactor going in the roll-off dumpster. And I wasn't able to get it. That was the plans for 9/11. Okay? So, then as soon as the guy walked out, I yelled at everybody. You got into the very tail end, walked over to the very tail end when pretty much everything was done. And I yelled at Tim to stop, and I jumped over there, and I grabbed everything as much as I could, as fast as I could, and I threw it over the wall. Then after I got it over the wall, I started picking it up. Then I told you guys everything had happened. So, some time had passed, maybe a short bit of time had passed, and then I didn't know who else to call, but that guy says don't trust the FBI. But I didn't know who else to call, so I called the FBI. The FBI sent out that exact same guy, this time showing me his badge. Okay? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, hold on. I got ahead. I got too far ahead. We got to back up. Okay. So after those terrorists were there, okay, I had the eye infection. You and I went to Wisconsin on a little trip. We went up to the House in the Rocks, the grotto, the caves. Okay, we came back. Now, film was expensive up there, so I bought my first digital camera.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I came home, and I'm trying to use my digital camera, and the image is like swirling on the back of it, and I'm pissed off. I'm thinking, geez, I paid over $100 for this fucking camera, and it's broke already. And I'm going around trying to take pictures, trying to take pictures of my dog. And then I hook it up to my computer. Now, this was early generation digital camera. This was the Polaroid Fun Flash. Okay? So if I remember right, I didn't have a card. The card was like integrated into it. Okay? So you had to hook it up to the computer. So you went in the other room with me, I had to hook it to my computer, and I started highlighting them all to delete. And then you yelled at me to stop. Remember that? Because you saw something on the pictures. You saw something on every one of those pictures that was moving around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So then I took the pictures and I sent them all to we're able to save, sent them all to the small floppy disk. And I printed one of them off on my printer, but it showed lines through it. So it didn't show, very nice. And I stuck that copy in a book. Now, here's the weird thing. Another thing that goes along with that fairy tale we can't figure out. In all those pictures, there was at least three beings that you could see in perfect detail what they looked like. And they moved around in that room. And on the last photo, which is when I copied off, they were standing they moved from the kitchen to the dining room, and they turned around and they were standing there, and one of them had a hood over him, and two of them had symbols on their clothing. And after that had happened, I had shared those photos online to one of those late night programs that talks about government conspiracies. And somebody said that being that's in that picture, if you go to NASA's website, they got a rendering of that exact same being. I'll be damned. They did an exact rendering of that being, and it's called a reptilian. Supposedly some alien. Okay? So shortly after I had posted that on the internet, I got an email. An email like I've never seen before, because the email, instead of having letters and numbers, the email was symbols. And it had a very, very explicit warning about never, ever, 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 ever putting that photo on the internet ever again, or showing it to anybody else ever again. I'm like, what the hell? Right? So until that point, even though we met those 9/11 people involved, those terrorists, we did not notice the FBI watching us.
No.
We didn't notice it, okay? But then...
We're doing our job.
We're doing our job. But then, after that weekend, we came home, that's when all hell started to break loose. So then, this is about the time I had called the FBI and the guy came in, okay? And then I got into an argument with the FBI agent because he told me that I didn't understand that this is the way the government gets things done, and nobody needs to know. And he said he's going to kill me, you, my fellow employees, my friends, my family, set me up for a crime, put me in a prison where they would hide me. They could do anything they wanted to. They could turn a saint into a murderer. Okay? They'd be like gods, right? So I got into a kind of a verbal yelling argument match with this FBI agent. And I said, I grew up in a military family, and this is not the way things go. And he kept on telling me, I don't understand it. This is the way the government gets things done. And he says, and you keep your mouth shut. And then he told me, he says, he tries to kind of psychology, and he says, just think what's going to happen if you try to tell people ahead of time. He says, they're going to put the blame on you. And he says, and if you try to tell people afterwards, he says, all those families are going to get mad at you because you weren't able to stop it. And I said to him, I said, I don't think that's the way it's going to be. Okay. So shortly after that, I was asked to leave. I lost my job. But the vertigo was bad. My health was bad.
Hey, I left before you did.
Okay.
Because
we're doing this.
Because I caught 2 people in.
Yeah, there was that weird stuff going on. If you came to work too early in the morning, you saw people having sexual relations
with supervisors.
And it was a no. I'm sure somebody's going to try to come back at me over this, but it was a known fact that if you were willing to give it to somebody, you could rise up above that and get in the union, and you got a job for as long as you did that.
Yeah, and I told a supervisor what I saw.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, you're not in the recycling. You're going to go pick up fucking trash. Remember that?
Yeah.
I had to pick up fucking trash with that fucking stick. And I said, all right, that's enough. And I went in there, and they're like, well, if you don't like it, fire you.
I was approached by, surprisingly, 3 different people to get into that situation. And one of them would come into the recycling building with pierced, with chains and things that jingled and would go.
All right, let me ask
wanting
you
to get a little busy behind the recycling pile.
Let me ask you this. Remember when Walmart would have their garbage?
They bring in their big truck, yeah.
And what would, after they dumped their truck, what would happen?
Anything that was worthwhile all wound up at an auction house. Surprise, Walmart!
The gates would be closed, and they'd be out picking through every goddamn thing.
Yep.
And loading up on trucks and vans and taking and reselling. Yeah, seen it.
Well, if we're going to disclose that, maybe I ought to be telling people that there was a time that I had to guard the gate while there was a spill there that they're hiding.
Oh.
Yeah, they're hiding from the local government and the news crew. And then, on occasion, there was things buried there that, well, you got to put it somewhere, okay? But it was radioactive. It was radioactive.
They bring in the truck and shut the fucking gate.
Yeah.
And and then back up to this one area. Wasn't where the garbage was. Remember, it was around back of the pile. They dig that big fucking pit and fucking dump the shit and then push the garbage over top of it.
Yeah. And, okay, so I don't know if we should be telling, but it's under new ownership now. It's under new ownership. But there's actually a cemetery there.
Well, it'd be good.
Yeah, it's underneath a pit. They built the dump up higher, and it's under a pit.
Well, it means the other bodies that came in.
Yeah, and there was a thing. There was a thing, people. When you're on the dozer, doesn't go. You don't talk about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Right?
Babies, people, animals, people.
Sometimes they're
I
not.
see.
Sometimes things aren't dead yet. Yeah?
You just do your fucking job and cover the garbage.
And shut up. And don't tell nobody.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's jump way. Let's get way past that. Okay. So the government had been a big problem in my life.
What's that?
The government became a huge problem in my life. They were harassing me. They slowed down my internet. I got death threats over the phone. I would be out. One of my things I like to do is go look for Hot Wheels at at stores. I'd be out looking at Hot Wheels, and all of a sudden this guy he'd bump into me, and I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then he started talking, and he says, "Now, we know you told somebody again." He says, "Now you're going to learn. You're going to learn." He says, "Those people that you told, we don't know what you told, and we can't get it out. So their death's on your head. It's on your shoulders." And people were freaking having accidents, and they were dying.
All right, well, why haven't I died? Why haven't they threatened me?
You took off. You took off and went to Wisconsin in some kind of rural area. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you took off. You see what was happening.
Yeah. And
So anyway,
that is why I live in northern Wisconsin, where these are very well.
yeah. You know what? We got ahead again. So there was one other thing that happened at the dump. Right before you had left the dump, Eddie Tipton came into the dump. That was the guy that told us. That was the guy that told us how to win a lottery. He was the guy that he was working for the lottery and told us at any moment he could set up a friend, a family member, the governor could set up her relatives to win the freaking lottery repeated times, and nobody would ever know that this is how they became from poor to wealthy. So he told us.
We didn't fucking believe him.
We didn't fucking believe him, so he told us to play these numbers. You won. Right?
It wasn't that much. Yeah.
I won too, but I went to go turn it in. Excuse me, I had the vertigo really bad. And my mom was driving me, and she took me to Hy-Vee in Marion, Iowa. And I went to go turn it in. Yeah, I know, I said somebody's name again. I probably shouldn't, but I'm mad about this. Went to turn it in, and the lady, I didn't hear this, "Woohoo, you won." All I heard was the lady said, "We can't you can't turn that in here." And I said, "Lady," I said, my health's really bad. I said, "Somebody drive here. They're not going to drive me anywhere else." I said, "If I can't turn it in here," I said, "shit, somebody else might as well take it." And this guy ran and grabbed my damn lottery ticket, ran out the store. Then the lady behind the counter, she says, "No, you won the jackpot." And I said, "Well, then go get my damn ticket." Okay. So that would have been my money that I needed to start my internet business if I wouldn't have got ripped off at Hy-Vee and Marion. Right?
I told you to sign the fucker.
All right. So the guy got in this old station wagon with stuff strapped at the top of it, and I have to say, I think he was living out of his car, and I felt bad about it. And then on the news, there was this. On the news, they had a thing that this guy and his wife had died, and I think it was them. They froze to death in their car with the damn lottery ticket in a parking lot in Hy-Vee and Marion. What are the odds? Okay.
That's one thing I could never understand about Cedar Rapids and Marion. They have all these fucking homeless people, and they have these homeless shelters.
They've been closing them. They've been closing them.
They get money from the state for these people to come in, and they just don't let them in and take the money.
They can only stay there a couple nights, and you got to leave. Then they tell you to go walk someplace else. Okay. So, we're going to go to 2003, right? So
Okay.
my health is bad. I'm trying to make ends meet. The meth labs are bad here in my town. The county and the sheriff's department's getting on people's about their, because we're next to a big park here at the campground. So there's all these campers all around, and they're making meth labs in them. So they're trying to get people to get rid of them. And I thought, it'd be kind of nice restoring a couple of those old campers, right?
Yeah.
So I started getting these old campers in. Okay? And then people found out about it, so I started getting more, and that's when I put the ad on.
Yep.
And then that's when Mark got in trouble at Harvard. He hit some girl. He did some harassing things on the internet, and then broke into the school's website, and he got in trouble. And when he called me, was right about the time they were having, supposedly, now I heard two different stories about it was either going away party for him or he was at a different party. So I don't know which it was, okay? But he had called me right about then because he had a plan to buy it. His dad got on his case. He had so much money. Thought he was going to get expelled. And his dad told him, he said, you got to figure out a way to make ends meet with what money that you got, right?
Yep.
And figure it all out on your own. So he was going to leave Harvard because he figured he was going to get expelled anyway. He was going to take classes at in Iowa, okay? And he found a school bus that he was going to buy that he thought he could get cheap at an auction. And then he was going to turn it into a schoolie and then live in the bus, do videos of the transformation and the experience in the bus. And from what I heard from different people, it sounds like the bus was going to be parked at a relative's house in Iowa. Okay? So he contacted me. Him and Severin drove to my house in a little silver Honda hybrid car that was beat to shit. The side window was broke out of it because he said he locked his camera in the car at a ball game and his keys, and then he broke out the side window to get his keys and his camera. And then the nose of the car was all loose, and Severin said that him and Mark were running away from somebody on the back road and bottomed it out, and that's how the front nose of the car was all loose. Okay. So he decided that I had everything that he wanted. I was selling him everything out of one really nice, gigantic truck camper that had been sitting under a lean-to, and then, of course, had been sitting under a lean-to, and it looked like brand new, but as soon as they moved it off from under the lean-to, it leaked. So that's why I wound up with the camper. That and, the meth labs. All right. So he asked me to come back and stay with the bus, bring the bus with him, his new girlfriend, Priscilla, and a dog. Now, the dog looked like he called it a lab. It looked like maybe an older yellow lab, something, I don't know. It wasn't black or anything. It was kind of yellowish, white, So anyway, so he comes with the bus, talks, and the first thing he says, oh, how great it is to get away. Oh, man, I'm glad to get away. I got in so much trouble. Then he brags about his girlfriend. Said he'd only met his girlfriend, and I think he said he only met her for like a week and a half or something like that. And I said, how in the hell did you get somebody to drive all the way from where you were at, all the way to Central City, Iowa, staying in a bus on a blow-up bed, and I haven't even known you for that long? Well, then he sticks out, he's got an extremely very long tongue. He sticks out his tongue and starts doing slurping sounds, and he says he's got her hooked, and he says, she's my princess. And I said, oh, okay, whatever. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about Mark. So, when he got here, he was wearing, let's see. I'm trying to think. Okay, so when he got here, he was wearing contacts, but then at some point he took the contacts out and he had these octagon-shaped glasses. I think they might have been transitions because I'd seen them when they were dark. Looked like something maybe like Ben Franklin or somebody would wear, or maybe a hippie, And he had this hairdo that looked like a perm, but it was all grown out. Some people kind of remarked about it looked like a rat's nest. Other ones kind of remarked it looked like something to be on a clown. Then he had put a hat on trying to hold it down. And he kept on saying, I want beer. I want beer. That's all he wants. He just kept on saying, I want beer. And I said, you're not having beer here. He never even asked me beforehand if he could have beer. And I said, how old are you? Because he looked too damn young to be driving this bus. Okay? And if I remember right, he had just turned 18. Now, I asked him what his birthday was, and that was May 14th, 1984. And I said, geez, I bought motorcycles. My new motorcycle I bought in 85 was, I got it in 84 or something like that, And I said, geez, I've bought bikes older than you, Okay, now, I'm trying to think of what else I can tell you. He wore sandals, brown sandals when he was here, and I said, I don't think you had to be wearing those with the goose shit and the chicken shit, And I wasn't too sure about the dog with the goose and the chickens either, but the dog, surprisingly, was okay. It didn't cause any problems. Okay. So he learned, we were talking about what he was going to do, how he was going to make the money. And I learned that he learned how to do coding. And I asked if he could do coding for me for this thing I was trying to do. Okay.
Yeah.
And I kept on going to my friend down here in town. And you know who I'm talking about. I was going to him asking about computer stuff. Dwayne.
Yeah.
Because you went there with me. Now Dwayne says, oh, it never happened. But you were there with me numerous times while I was asking Dwayne about different ideas on how to make this work. And Dwayne kept on saying, oh, I think it's stupid. It takes too much money. It's too big. Okay.
Yeah.
So, on that first night, Mark went for a ride on his... Oh, you were here. You were here. You were here.
Was it when I did? Yeah, was it when I was down with the brown Jeep?
I don't remember, but you were here. No, that was the weekend again when you got. That was the weekend when you got your car stripped. That was the weekend you got in trouble and your car stripped. So anyway. We took pictures. This is when you were still heavy set, okay? We took pictures.
You mean fat?
Yeah, you're
Say
fat.
It, fucker.
You're fat, okay? So we stood, the porch was not added on yet. There was no barn yet. There was no added on in addition to the house. So we had stood next to the old porch, and we were trying to get Mom to take a picture of us with the camera, and Mom can't get the camera to work right. So, didn't Mark take that picture?
I had a yellow Hawaiian shirt on.
You see it?
Yeah.
That shirt.
Right.
Now, if I remember correctly, Mom tried to take the picture, and she wasn't able to. So Mark took that picture. Am I right? Mark Zuckerberg took the picture of us standing there. And we did one where we stood there, and then he did hear no evil, see no evil, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
And we did that picture on several times that you were here. We did it one other time that you were here too. That would have been after the porch was built. Okay.
Didn't we take one? I came down, it was you and I. I had on, it was a double shirt, tattooing a girl. I'm on one side, you're on the other side, and we're leaning up against a yellow... Holy fuck!
I keep it on my desk.
That would be the...
I keep it on my desk.
I love that fucking shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came down to visit.
So this is another... I have it on my desk in a frame, yeah. And this picture right here... This picture right here, Mark took that picture on the last day just as Priscilla pulled in with his car to follow him with the bus.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, Mark learned what I wanted to do, but he had to think about trying to help me do the coding. So he left that night. He said he was going to go buy beer. He literally was kind of demanding that I go buy him beer. If I'm going to help you, you go buy me beer. I said, I am not going to go buy you beer, and I don't want beer at my home either. Okay? So he said that one way or another, he had a way. He was either going to pay somebody to buy him beer, or he's going to use some fake ID or something. So he rode around on a fluorescent GT mountain bike. Rode around downtown, and then he came back, and Priscilla pulled in with his car, and they spent the night. Okay? Next day, okay, now this has been a long time ago, so it's kind of hard to get, everything exactly right. So he got here, that's what happened on a Friday, he got a Saturday, so he decided he was going to help me. Okay? Now, this is when I just bought my first new computer. My first new one. A compact Presario. They had this deal where you got a big discount, I don't know, at Best Buy or something. Anyway. So, Dwayne offered me cracked software because Dwayne and Mark were in the same hacking club, but Dwayne wouldn't put it in my computer. Okay? Mark offered to put it in my computer. Okay? But there was a video game that I had got. It was Age of Empire. I think that's what it was. Age of Empire or something, and it had like the Horde or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were playing it on my computer, and you really liked that game.
Yeah, because you could build up your civilization.
And you really liked that game. So Mark installed the software on my computer. In exchange, Mark got the game. That's where the game went to. Mark got the game. So he installed software on my computer that allowed me to copy CDs and DVDs.
Yeah.
Okay? Alright. And then while we were on my computer, he wanted me to send photos to his dad, and that's when I told Mark that my internet's being slowed down. I said, it's really slow. I said, it's dial-up anyway. I said, but it's being slowed down really slow. Okay, that's when I kind of started hitting about the government happening and all this stuff, So his dad's email address, if I can remember correctly, because it was something to do with Viper, Blue Viper, okay? And I said, what do you guys got, a snake? And he said, no, it's a car. Blue Viper, it's like Blue Viper, TTE, something at AOL.com. Okay, so if anybody's out there, you want to try piecing this together, do an investigation, there you go, there's some more pieces, right? Okay.
Yeah, how would you know Dad's email address?
Yeah, how would I know that? By the way, somebody's been stealing stuff from this house over the years, evidence, You haven't got the hard drive yet. So there you go, people. Still got the hard drive for when Mark put it on my computer. And there was a program on there. What was that? There was a program that you used so that when you wrote an email, it automatically kept that email address. So guess what? It's probably more proof, right? Probably more proof. If I remember right, Mark, there was a problem I had with Mark originally because it was either he wanted to do emails and I wanted phone or something back and forth. So there's probably Mark on there too. Okay. All right. So anyway, he agreed to do the coding and help me. And that lawyer got involved. Mark Howitson. Yeah. First time I talked to Mark Howitson was on the first day that Mark arrived because I got my eye injury. I almost lost my eye. The front of it came off. And Mark said, well, maybe my friend and mentor, he can help you. He's a lawyer. He can give you tips on how to get some disability or get him to pay for your eye injury. So that was the first time I talked to Mark Howitson on the phone. Mark Howitson was this young lawyer, 28 years old. Okay? And then he said he wasn't that kind of lawyer. He was property attorney, intellectual property attorney, and something else. Dealt with that, okay? But anyway, so after Mark decided he was going to help me, then it changed. Mark Howitson got involved, and then Mark said, well, if I can get it up and running really quick, and I can find the investors that you need, then why don't I, he wanted to know why, he wanted to do it, right? And just pay me a percentage in return. And my opinion was my health was really bad, the government's coming down on me, right? To me, it looked like a win-win situation. I live pretty cheaply.
Modern.
I live pretty cheaply.
Very modern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I was happy with that. If I didn't have to deal with it, I wouldn't even care if it wasn't known that I wasn't involved with it. Everybody would think that Mark did all this on his own. As long as I seen the money, I didn't care. But then it changed. But then, and that one night you were sleeping here, that one night that you were staying overnight, I kept on saying, Dave, it's all going to work out. It's all going to work out. I can't believe it. It's all going to work out.
But the thing is, Len, one thing people don't understand about you, you're a very trusting person.
Yeah.
You believe when someone says something, that's what they're going to do, because, you and I we were brought up by people that if you gave your word and you said you were going to do something, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to say, these millennials or whatever the hell you want to call them, they don't care.
No.
They don't care. You said it yourself. Mark had so much money, he got kicked out of Harvard.
Yep. His dad said that if he didn't figure it all out, he was going to wind up being a manager at McDonald's for the rest of his life.
And he figured it out.
He saw dollar signs in his eyes, and he was planning on ripping me off. And I took him for his word. And I tell you what, at that point, before that point, I didn't realize how manipulative. I mean, I worked with convicts, and working at the dump too. And doing security, you start reading people, and I tell you, he must be a habitual liar, because I couldn't read him. I couldn't read him. He was lying to me all along, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
So, the lawyer got involved. This is about where this is going to come to an end here soon. So, the lawyer got involved. I took me some time to actually agree to this, because Mark didn't really want to give me anything. I mean, he was lucky if he was going to give me 5%. And at first I said, you know what, how about 30? He goes, oh, well, we're going to give you 30%. And I said, okay, all right. So I kept on trying to work it out with him, and I said, all right, so here's the deal. I told you the reason why I created this, how long I've worked on it, what it was for. Yeah, I understand. Okay. All right, so how about this? I said, if you continue with what I originally had planned, you give me 15 cents on every dollar made from it. He said, well, I kind of think that's too much. I said, okay. I said, we might be able to renegotiate it once it gets up and going. Okay, but if you are not going to do what I originally planned, with the original reason why the whole thing was created, then you owe me 20 cents on every dollar made from it. And then that 10% difference is going to go to do what I wanted done. It's going to go to fund free clinics and shelters. It's going to go to help, people get past barriers for people like my friend Tiffany can survive, for they can afford to live and not just wither away and die because they got no money to survive on. Right?
Yeah.
And we had to think about it for a while, and he says, well, the girlfriend, she really liked that. I said, all right. So he entered into the agreement. He did. He entered into the agreement. Joe was a witness. He had Mark Howitson as a witness. I talked to Mark Howitson on the phone to make sure he was there. He used his new Sony disc camera that was the first year for this Sony disc camera to record it. And I'm supposed to get this copy of this disc afterwards, right, to hold on to until the lawyer did the agreement on his end and got it to me to sign. Yep. So let this be known, people. Mark Howitson and Mark Zuckerberg, their creation history that they've been telling everybody is bogus. That is how it happened. That is how he got the idea to start Facebook. He got it from my intellectual work that I worked on for more than 3,650 days to perfect it. That's how he was able to just take it and then start it. Right?
Yeah.
So, he wouldn't give me a copy. He told me he didn't want a recording taken of him. He tried to destroy the evidence. He formatted my damn camera to take all the pictures off from it, my new one. Bob, I'm not done yet.
Oh, I wanted the paper.
He formatted my camera. He opened the back. I was using multiple cameras that time when he was there. Two digital cameras, 2 film cameras. Okay? He opened the back up on one of them. I went and had that film developed at Walmart, thinking that I was going to get my film back. And the part of it that had him on it with the bus was exposed. So he managed to destroy it.
Yeah.
So I went out there with a mini cassette, and I recorded him and I talking about it until the whole tape was filled. We haven't been able to find that tape, and I think I know why.
Think you took it?
No.
What?
After Mark had left, this is several years after Mark had left, I had sold the house that I owned in Cedar Rapids. Okay.
The one you lived in.
Yep. And then I built the barn out here. This house that we live in now, this house built in 1909, my parents' home, it was in really horrible shape. So I had to dump money into this place because one wall was rotted, the pipes were freezing, the sewer needed replaced, the well needed redone, and so I did all that and put up this barn. Well, the contractors that we had for the barn, I had a hell of a time. But the government that was watching me the entire time got involved in the situation, and they went after that building corporation, and they got the same threats that I got, because one of them, from what I hear, got a threat that he was going to wind up dropped off in a foreign country. So anyway,
hey,
you
know who that building company is?
Huh?
They have a shamrock shape on their logo, don't they?
Yeah, they got a shamrock shape on their logo. It's from Wisconsin. Yeah. So anyway, I sent Mom in to go grab a mini cassette tape. And I think possibly
recorded over it.
It's either that got recorded over, or there was another tape that when Mark was trying to destroy stuff, it appears what somebody did is they dumped it in pop because the ribbon wouldn't come apart. It was stuck.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that tape kept on breaking, and I kept on taking it apart, and I'd fix it. And that was when you showed up in 2006, when I was so upset and crying, because if I found that tape, I was going to get that, right?
Yep.
And eventually, that tape, I couldn't get it fixed, so I coiled it up, and I put it in a plastic bag. But I didn't know if that was tape or not. Now, the other tape that was recorded over from the building company, I still have it. There is a possibility you could adjust the tape head and you might be able to slightly hear the recording underneath. So enough of it still might exist.
No, the recording that you did with the building company, was it the whole tape? Or was it just part of the tape?
Whole tape.
What?
And I still have that tape. But now the one that I had, they had the coil that was coiled up, that I was going to try to figure out how to fix, you know. Maybe I could have soaked it in water and got the pop off. The pop acted like glue, you know.
Yeah, it does.
Now, I found that tape again because I went after the lawyer after I was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. Now, see, I need this, just like my friend, you know, I need to benefit from it now. So I went after the lawyer, and I was trying to find that tape, and you know, we live like pack rats here. You know that. Yeah. So I managed to find that tape. Okay? And I made a mistake of saying on the internet that I think I might have found that tape. The muscular dystrophy got my heart. I had to go in for heart surgery. Went in for heart surgery. Somebody placed a phone call from my home to my sister's phone, which her cell phone number is now what was her home phone number. Okay? Mom and Ellen got home. I stayed in the hospital at least 24 hours. I wasn't doing good after heart surgery. When I got home, that was gone. Tiffany's pictures were gone. And thousands of dollars were missing out of our home. It's all gone. And we haven't been able to figure out who took us. We don't know if somebody just figured we weren't home and they hurry and run through the house searching for stuff and they found it, grabbed it all at once, or if there's something more to this. But it's all gone.
Why would they take a tape?
That doesn't make any sense. But all of it was together. All of it was together. So maybe they just, you know, right?
Snatch and grab.
Yeah. So anyway, so I took the lawyer to the Bar Association, tried to get him disbarred. The State Patrol officer, I got a hold of him. He remembered the call very clearly, but he wanted something. Now, I don't want anybody coming down on me because Jim, but his real name was James, we called him Jim. From what I know of him, he was a very nice guy. Okay? So from what I assume, we were messaging back and forth on the internet. Not somebody else. It was him. Okay? But he wanted something in return for being that witness, and he claimed that if he didn't, he was going to contact the other side. Well, the Bar Association wanted the messages, the emails sent back and forth, so I give them to them, but it was sent through Craigslist Relay. Now, I can't go through Craigslist Relay and find out the guy's email address, but somebody managed to do that and contacted him, because on the last email that I got from him, he said they offered him so much money, it was like winning the ultimate lottery for him and his relative, for a non-disclosure, not to disclose that they heard on that phone call that Mark Howitson and Mark Zuckerberg stole my business plan from me, threatened me, and was going to commit fraud at the Supreme Court if I didn't help them. See, that would have got him disbarred. Yeah. He would have lost his practice. And then shortly after that, just by pure freak accident, he died in the line of duty. He got shot. Literally hours after the last email.
Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton.
So my mom, she got mad. I mean, let's face it here. I got muscular dystrophy. I got no income coming in. And if I don't die from this disease before my options run out, when my options run out, I'm pretty much left with, I don't plan on being like one of these other people going around, you know, and shooting people, but you know what? If I don't want to wind up being thrown out in the street, I'm literally going to have to commit suicide. That's a horrible thing, because the state don't give options to people that have this disease. People think that if you got muscular dystrophy and Sjogren's, you know, and if you're totally disabled, they're automatically going to give you some disability. No. I tried disability the first time. The government got involved with it, and apparently they were punishing me for trying to expose the 9/11 bit. The second time I tried to do it, I didn't have any work credits, so I had to file for SSI. And I won, but you can't get it when two of you are living together. And you'd have to try to get somebody to evaluate your assets, and nobody wants to get involved anyway, so no matter what, it wouldn't work. It would have been like a prison. Okay? So she got mad. She called that lawyer. That lawyer admitted to remembering me, but then he says, no, I don't know why you're calling me. It's been more than 10 years. I know my rights. You can't ask me for a statement. That was just enough to know that he knows more than he's letting on. They were lying at the Supreme Court. He had to be losing his practice. Mark Zuckerberg should be owning Facebook from prison.
All right, now I have something to ask you.
Yeah.
People are going to watch this video, okay?
Yeah. And hopefully this one turns out.
Yeah.
Hopefully it turns out.
Are you done?
How do you know? Well, this guy is famous. He's rich. I mean, there ain't no way this little freaking podunk town boy knows freaking these millionaires, okay?
Yeah.
He's a millionaire. Not millionaire. Billionaire.
Mark's a billionaire now, yeah.
There ain't no way that, he's going to know these famous people.
Yeah.
See, I've known you for a while.
I have known some people that are famous, yeah.
See, you're already beating me to what I'm going to ask.
So who do I know? Okay, so when I dated Denise, when everybody was warning me not to go out with Denise, okay?
Yeah.
One of the first people that told me not to go out with Denise was Terry Farrell. Terry Farrell, if she was at Burger King in the line to get, take an order at Lindale Mall, Burger King. Dwayne was the manager there. Denise and I was there, and she didn't know I was with Denise, and I said, oh, well, I'm with her. And actually, I don't know if I should say this or not, but, Terry hit on me, and she grabbed me, okay? Well, anyway, and I said, she says, Len, don't go out with her. She says, she is trouble. She's a home wrecker. She gets everybody in trouble, okay? So there's how I know of Terry. They were both in the same modeling agency together.
All right, now,
Ashton Kutcher.
What about the boy?
Huh?
You mean the grocery store boy?
Ashton Kutcher. So Ashton Kutcher was also part of that same modeling agency, Avant Modeling Studios in Cedar Rapids. He worked at Randall Foods, okay? He also knew Denise, okay? Ashton rode around in one of my cars. I remember he at least sat in one of my cars at the Randall Foods parking lot. We're all going to get together and go out. So we all somewhat knew each. I didn't know him very well, okay, but he knew Denise very well. And Susan, her friend, worked at Randall Foods. He knew her. And then I went out with Kim, which was Tiffany's best friend. She also worked at Randall Foods, so Ashton also knew Kim that I went out with. So that's how I know. That's how I know.
Anybody else you know?
You talking about Johnny Depp?
Well, what did he call himself when he came?
Well, okay. So here's how this happened. So I'm trying to clean up the junk out here at the place, and there's this, and I'm trying to get the other people that have got junk cars out here to get rid of them. And they said, why don't you get rid of yours? And I said, all right, fine. So I got this old pickup box trailer that my dad had. I call it a 57 Ford. This other guy calls it a 58, okay? So I put it on the internet, and it wasn't 100% rust-free, but it was really solid for being from 1958, okay?
I remember that. I remember it sitting there.
Okay. Exception of, now, if he's hearing this, he's not going to like this. Okay, but I let Tim borrow it. Tim. I let Tim borrow it, and Tim filled the back end of he got in trouble for burning one day on his property. He filled the back end of it up full of hot coals and stuff that he was burning because he got in trouble with the law. That's when he was burning stuff when some famous golf player came over and... Okay, anyway, I put it on the internet, and only one person was interested, and I was selling it cheap. And this lady said that she wanted to pick it, or she called, email and calling for somebody else, and they wanted to pick it up on a certain date, and I kept on saying no. A month and a half from the date, okay? And I kept on saying no. Well, then it kept on getting closer, and she'd email again, and she would call, and then it got to like a week and a half from the date. And she says, can you hold it a week and a half now? I said, all right, I'll hold it a week and a half now. from the day, okay? So then it got to be that she didn't tell me anything more other than she was setting it all for somebody else at that point. They got to that exact day and that exact time, okay? And then she calls again and she says, well, he's not going to be able to make it. And I kind of got in her case and I said, what the hell kind of an internet scam is this? What are you getting out of it? And she says, oh, no. She says, wait a minute. She says, you have to understand. She says, you have to understand. She says, I'm the coordinator for somebody famous. So I have to set up time slots. So we had a time slot set up, but now that time slot isn't available no more. And I said, okay. And she says, so he was going to have somebody else pick it up, but now he wants to come to your house and pick it up himself. And I said, okay. And she says, and he feels safe being there. She says, I don't want you to take this the wrong way and get upset. She says, but we do a little bit of a background check on you, and and check out the area to see who you are and what the area is like to make sure that it's safe because this is a famous person. And I said, okay, all right. She said, so I'm going to get off the phone. And she said he had just got done hosting an event for this association. And I do think, if I remember right, it was the Isaac Hayes something associate or something Isaac Hayes. Anyway, so she hangs up the phone. He calls. First thing he asked me is if I got phone caller ID. I said, no, I ain't got phone. Oh, great, you don't have phone caller ID. He's all excited about that. Okay. So he wants me to give him some visual cues. And the way he's talking reminds me of the modeling days from what I would hear from models, Okay, because, the modeling days, some of these are like Ashton Kutcher, he got into acting, right? Yeah. So I said to him, I said, well, I haven't heard them mention that since the days I used to know some models. Oh. So he shows up in a Cadillac Escalade wearing this brown hat, big brown hat, blue glasses, a brown vest, cream-colored shirt, sleeves rolled up. I don't remember what the pants were. I think they were brown. He had a belt that was way too long, hanging off to one side, all-star high-top shoes, right. Covered, Mom, I'm busy, covered in rings and tattoos, okay? As he got out, the hat fell off and he threw it back in. He says, yeah, I want that trailer. Okay, pickup box trailer, okay. So I said, so what's your name? And he hears his voice and he says, it's, I think it's best for business if I just don't tell people who I am, unless you can figure it out right away. And I said, so, he says, Isaac. And I gave him kind of a funny look and I said, isn't Isaac dead? What? He kind of sat back for a moment. And then I said to him, I said, well, my last name's Shakespeare. I'm sure you know some of my relatives, And then he said, well, he wanted to know how he was going to hook this thing up. And I said, well, you're not going to be able to have a pin hitch on it. They had it on a tractor. And I said, you need to go get yourself a hitch. And I said, you're going to have to go to, the closest place is Menards and go buy a hitch. And he said, well, I don't want to go there. I had problems. I got kicked out of Menards. And I said, oh, okay. So he decides he's going to go to Menards, okay? So as he turns around and gets ready to leave, he says some kind of a smart-ass comment about, well, you're not the only one related to royalty or something, okay? So then he leaves, goes up to church, sits there for a while, then he leaves, he goes to Menards, comes back. He has more stuff than he could ever want. So he says he's all excited. He says, I went to the gas station. He said, nobody recognized me. I went to Menards, and he says, I bought all this stuff. And he says, I hurried and got in and out. Nobody recognized me. So I can't believe this is like a little vacation. So he's all excited. Okay. So while he was gone, I Googled Isaac Hayes Foundation, and there's this picture of Johnny Depp wearing the exact same outfit. So then when he's here, we pull the trailer around, and we're working on it, and I had to cut off the old hitch and drill holes and put the new one on. And he keeps pulling out these little thin cigars out of these metal tubes and smoking them one right after another. I mean, he's smoking these things fast, And I said, so what's with the name John? I said, so Chris, what's up with the name John? And he goes, well, he says to me, who's coming? Who did you tell? Who'd you talk to? I said, I called one person, but nobody's coming. He said, I got to get out of here. And I said, no, seriously, there's nobody coming. I said, this is Central City. I said, you're in the middle of nowhere. We're surrounded by cornfields. I said, there's nobody coming. He said, well, I don't feel too safe about this now. So he had me open up all the garage doors. The garage door, the two big doors, the walk-in door, open up the barn door, the chicken house door, the trailers, the house. He had me open up every door to make sure there wasn't nobody hidden that's going to jump out. Okay? But then after that, after he realized that there was nobody, going to bother him, I tell you, really nice guy. Okay? So, this person, even though he didn't say his name was Johnny Depp, okay, looked like Johnny Depp, and he said that he was getting out of acting and going to do his life dream of getting into music and the Hollywood vampires. Okay? And I said, I think the name should be the Hollywood Legends instead. Oh no, vampires. I said, okay. So, really nice guy. And then so I'm going to spill something here that's not. I'm gonna break a promise. Okay, there's a promise that I'm gonna break. So, if you're Johnny Depp, don't get mad at me. Okay. So he's telling me about his life and his cars and all this stuff. And he's talking about, I asked him what he wants to do with this old truck box trailer. And he said he wanted to put the box on his dad's pickup, which was a 1958. Okay? Hopefully he could just put the box on there and then leave it the color that it is, because it's the same color and not have to change it. Okay? And he had fixed up another one of these trucks and given it away to some other music person, okay? And he's got a person that he goes to in Illinois that would do the body work, like restore his girlfriend's car, because hold on, go back to finish that. So he said about I said, what's with all these cars, most of them are 1958. And I said, what's with 1958? And he says, and he stops, and I said, what's up with that? He says, well, I almost said something I wasn't supposed to. And I said, so what, you're born in 1958? Because everybody assumed that Johnny Depp was born in June 9th, 1963. Okay? But it sounded like this person was born in June 9th, 1958. Okay? Now, I know from a little bit of history that when Johnny Depp got his first part, which was in Nightmare on Elm Street, he played a younger part than what he really was. So maybe that's true. But now we were talking about, I said to him, oh, you're with that Amber Heard. And then he goes, and I said, well, that don't sound too good. So there must have been a problem all the way back then. And I said, you want a little advice? So I gave him advice twice. On the when he's talking about the 1958 thing, I said, you know what I've learned in my life? I said, never be ashamed of who you are, where you've been, and how you got there, as long as you never hurt anybody along the way. I said, if you want to brag about your cars and your life to me, I said, you know what? I'm not going to think anything bad of you about it. Just go right on ahead. So then he opened up, and I'll tell you, really nice guy. But as far as it goes for the Amber Heard thing, if this really was him, we're assuming it wasn't somebody else that was like a stunt double pretending to be him, because, I don't know if it was or not. Okay. I said, you want a little advice there? I said, I had this model girlfriend, and I said, we had this like Hollywood kind of mob style breakup. I said, when everything goes to shit, I said, just pick up what you can, walk away, don't look back. He says, are you serious? I said, yeah. I said, that's what I've learned. I said, it ruined me. I said, just pick up what you can, don't think about it, don't look back, walk away. But he fought it. He won.
Oh, yeah, he did.
He won. So I said, the coordinator, okay, I sent a thing to the coordinator telling her how nice it was meeting this person and how it brought back the old times of, knowing the models from in the old days, in the early 90s. And I got a photo sent to me, but I wanted something personalized, but I didn't get a personalized written out photo. Instead, I got one of those auto pin photos that he sends out to everybody else. Oh, and he did have a pirate costume in the back of his Cadillac Escalade. And the Cadillac Escalade, he said, wasn't his. He said he borrowed it. So he did have a pirate costume in the back of the Escalade. You would have thought if that pirate costume was worth that much and that famous, he wouldn't have had it just sitting in the back of that Escalade. He would have thought he would have had it locked up in a suitcase or something. But so there's the Johnny Depp thing.
Where's the picture?
Huh? I got the picture is on I had it hung up on my door in the barn. Oh. Now for people to understand, the barn isn't a barn. The barn is like a garage. It's a pole barn full of old cars and bicycles and lawnmowers and travel trailers and
Hot Wheels,
signs,
jukebox.
Well, no. Old signs. Old signs, yeah. So there was items over the years. I had known a lot of people, and some of those people, before they knew they were going to pass those items on to me, and they wanted me to hang on to them and display them, like old fish poles, a soapbox derby. The soapbox derby car was the first soapbox derby car that was sponsored by the Corvette Club.
Yep, I know.
So if your Corvette Club ever wants to know what happened to it, it's in the barn. It's in the barn.
In the rafters.
In the rafters. There's an old pedal tractor up there. There's there is a bicycle that was given to me that's supposed to be kind of rare. It's an what was it? AMF bought out somebody. It's a 3-speed bicycle. Looks like a Harley Davidson.
Oh yeah, AMF and Harley Davidson.
Yeah. And it belonged to you remember you and I worked at Cornell College, right? There was a professor that passed away at Cornell College, and his wife gave it to me. So it's stored up there. So it's just like supposedly he wrote it back and forth to school. It's just like brand new. Yep.
Yeah, and if anything ever happens to you.
Now here's what pisses me off. Now after Mark has ripped me off, I was trying to keep people off getting that state aid help because it's horrible. It's horrible. It almost killed me being on that darn state help. And now because of what Mark did to me, anything that I make, I collect over the years. At the end, the state wants it back because Mark ripped me off. Mark has been paying people $1 million a year for sitting on their ass and doing nothing. There ain't no reason why that low-life, spoiled brat, self-indulged, spoiled brat, couldn't have paid me something for I could have put it in the bank, lived off the interest, and not be in the position that I am. Now, people keep telling me, well, why don't you just create something else? Well, for one thing, people don't understand, there was multiple things that I did.
Oh, like the light?
The light, and I tried to get a patent on it, and I lost it to a corrupt attorney again for the bill. There was other things that I have done, but at this point, you know what? My creativity's been hurt. It's hard to, and I'm getting an older age, and I got all these health problems, and it's not so easy. And even if I create something new, I'm going to have to jump out of the hole, and it's going to have to be so great I can get out of the hole and not back in it, and pay back all that money I owe, or anything I do from this point on, I got to give it away. So what's the point? So my last thing that I think I'm doing here is I'm working on a book. Okay.
Who told you to do it?
Who told me to do it? Well, there was numerous people that contacted me on the internet, asked me to do it. And now that the Zuckerberg, first thought they wanted me to do it when they knew I was part of the cover-up over 9/11. And now And they knew, and then I came out about Mark. But you know what? I was never going to come forward about Mark. You were the one that told me to quit hiding behind it. Don't be ashamed of yourself and just come out. But now after Mark has been doing so many bad things and he's got so many enemies that literally people would like to, have his head, they want me to actually do a book that discloses both.
So I'm
working on it.
Write about everything. When your motocross days, modeling, PMX, working for Permar, things you've seen, things you've done, places you've been, things we've seen in that fucking house of yours.
Oh, yeah.
Shit that doesn't make any goddamn sense.
You had stuff attack you at night when you were laying down.
Oh, fuck you. Wouldn't leave me alone, kept grabbing my fucking crotch. But, you've been through a lot.
Oh,
You've
yeah.
seen a lot.
My first 40 years have really been something. Yep.
You've done things. You've had adventures. I mean, lately, in the past 10 years, well, actually 15.
Okay.
15 years or so.
Yeah.
You haven't been doing well.
No.
And I've told you, fuck them, do for yourself, get out of that hole, your freaking self-doubt, and just do it. Who gives a shit? Do you think I give a shit what it? I mean, Len, big fucking tall fat fucker working at a strip club. Remember that?
That was fun. That was fun.
I mean, when I fucking went to New York and fucking bodyguard, things I did in New York. I mean, I've lived. If people don't fucking believe you, but there will be people that.
So wait a minute now. So who was you a bodyguard for in New York?
Now you fucking know who.
And you didn't like her none too well, did you?
Huh?
If I remember right, you didn't like somebody so well.
No, his wife was a bitch. He was an alcoholic. His dog, he's got other kids that no one ever fucking sees.
This is a rock star. This is a rock star that you like.
Oh, I love his fucking music. I just don't like him.
Yeah. But you won't say who it was.
Oh, that's his. He has a song, Crazy. He was a lead singer for this black something group.
Didn't he want to do that song, Iron Man? Is that the song? Yeah, he did that song. Yeah.
And his real name is not Ozzy.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh.
So,
well,
Yeah. I really hope this video turns out. I noticed on my screen that it's recording the window, but when I did it on here, 2 windows popped up. And I didn't know that. So at the very least, the audio is going to be recorded. At the very least.
Yeah. Well, too bad.
We've been trying to record this for so long. We're doing this recording off Facebook Messenger, but it's showing that there is my Facebook homepage, which is not that version of Facebook. I'm using the version everybody else uses, but I have a way of clicking on my special version. But to tell you the truth, the newer version is handier because everything is just right there. Even though the posting is only about this wide, compared to mine, it's full screen. But the newer one is actually handier. Oh, okay. So we're going to end this because mom's been yelling at me. She wants her newspaper.
Go read it to her.
Oh. You know what?
What?
I don't think the video showed up on this, but it could have. I don't know. It's not showing up on here. I'm looking at OBS and it ain't showing it, but
all right.
Well, let's hope it works. You have a good day.